Good morning. This is the Friday Fireside, and I'm here with Pat Ferguson, who is CEO of Velocix. Did I say Velocix right?
You did indeed. Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Yeah, happy
All
to be
right.
here.
Now we're going to learn in a minute what Velocix is, but first a little bit about Pat. You've been knocking around for a while. What have you been up to?
Yeah, so and interesting that the tide of Velocix stems from my time at TDS Telecom, where had various level positions and then ultimately led video product management there and was the co-owner of the business case to introduce the TiVo IPTV user experience platform, which included Velocix in the vendor ecosystem. So first had that was when they were part of Nokia, and first had my interaction there, and then moved to TiVo, where started off leading our efforts to expand that user experience platform into Latin America, and then focused in Europe and Asia at the Xperia level for a while, and then ultimately led product and direct consumer operations for the TiVo platform there, where continue to work alongside Velocix very closely. So this is a company I'm definitely familiar with and couldn't be more excited to be here.
Scott Maddox is a longtime friend, and TiVo is an occasional sponsor of this show. So
Sure. Yeah.
they even sent me a new TiVo hat that had the new logo on it. Boy, I tell you,
Nice.
that's really doing something. Okay.
That's great.
Um, Tell us about Velocix. What is it that you do? And I'm just going to make the point you are part of a family of services that are knocking the ball out of the park, baseball reference, in the U.S. market, including parts of Cinemedia, and I think that's a division called Cortex, but also Imagine Communications and Wide Orbit. So you're in good company, buddy. But tell us about Velocix.
Yeah, so Velocix is ultimately at a time where streaming has never been more demanding. Velocix core principle is that operators should have complete control over their streaming system. So that means our suite of products, we put forward software that is infrastructure agnostic by design, working seamlessly across cloud and on-premise platforms to help deliver video streaming to telecommunications providers, broadcasters, and OTT platforms.
Now, your business is right now, you are heavily embedded and probably the leading provider in Europe. I saw Sky and Liberty Global and some other guys.
Yeah.
But now you also are going to have the ability to bring this to the US. What do you do that other people don't do? I love that question because everybody goes,
Yeah, it's a great question. So we do actually have footprint across the Americas. So in the US and Canada, some really key customers, and also in Latin America. Europe is absolutely a footprint stronghold for us. But when we think about how Velocix differentiates itself, it is a premium service that really does allow for the level of quality and distribution control that operators expect. And on top of that, our customers are very large. And so the scalability of the platform as the ecosystem as it relates to video streaming and what had been traditional pay TV and now has evolved through into the next generation suite of platforms and additional services and things, it becomes that much more critical for our customers to be able to scale and deliver video, and in turn empowers them to deliver the experiences that their customers are going to want to engage with and stick with. And so we are a part of, but a very important part of an ecosystem. And we set a very high bar for ourselves in terms of being able to empower those user experiences on the customer end of things.
so what's the primary reason an operator or distributor would be using Velocix? What's the thing that really works for them?
Content distribution and storage would be the highest level.
Storage.
Yeah. And then
You got a
with
lot
it,
of storage to do, buddy. There's a lot of
yeah, it
stuff
is.
out
Yeah.
there.
So cloud-based storage, working toward cloud native storage. So it is as these operators have transitioned from their legacy QAM-based platforms to an IP delivered set of content and user experiences, which of course, as you know, become much more complex in terms of all the different components. This is where they need a trusted, reliable, scalable network to be able to deliver the content to their end users, and for them, the end user, to be able to engage with the user interface and experience and record and or have all the trick play features and things that we are a part of that ecosystem to help support how it functions and how it performs.
Will I, as a consumer, be able to tell the difference, not that I would know the brand, between a platform that's using Velocix and a platform that isn't? What would I notice?
The ideal situation is that as an end user, the content is being delivered as to how you would expect it to, and the interface for that end user is predominantly in with the middleware user experience. So TiVo is a critical partner of ours, of course, in the Americas, and we also have many operators who build their own, especially in Europe, those that have developed their own user experience, and those user experiences and all the features that come with it, including the content recommendations and metadata, the UI layout, the integration of additional content such as OTT content into a seamless, discoverable experience. That's what they really care about. And the expectation is not only that the user interface and experience is going to perform as would expect, but that the content that they're wanting to look for, they can find and discover and watch as quickly as possible. And it's our job to make sure that the streaming content is there for them to be able to consume. And we're, like as I said, it's a very critical part of the ecosystem, although it's kind of behind the curtain, so to speak. And to your question, ideally, a provider such as Velocix, in terms of the content distribution network and the CDN and origin, what we have is up and running and scalable and seamless so that the user experience continues to function and the end user gets what they're demanding in terms of the content they want to watch.
Okay, so now let's take a specific environment, and we'll kind of call it a potential use case. You've got, if it all goes through, Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery, okay? And almost by definition, the Paramount system was built from the ground up on their side, and Warner scripts and everything was built from the ground up on their side. And oh, by the way, Warner itself is a bit of a kludge because it's scripts at HBO and everything else. And now all of a sudden it's going to come into one big, quote, quote, happy family operating all that stuff. How can you help a company like that wrangle? And that's a very specific word for me. Wrangle that stuff together so it can be operated trouble-free.
Well, there's a lot of, there are differences between the linear streaming world from a service provider or operator perspective and then the OTT world, although
Yep.
the content or the ecosystem from a technological perspective is very similar. They need to be able to take the content, ingest it, manage it, and then distribute it accordingly, whether it's through a linear streaming pipeline, AV pipeline like Velocix has for operators, or whether it's through a pipeline that ultimately is presented in an over-the-top application. I don't envy the consolidation work that potentially would be needed between those two, but at the same time, it's time will tell on how they do it. From our perspective at Velocix, it's while opportunistic, of course, and the OTT providers that we have, again, given that the ecosystem is very similar in terms of what they have to manage and distribute content-wise. There are how those apps then integrate with the platforms that we're servicing, especially from a service provider standpoint, it's a different integration path. So it's not as though the operators need to integrate those content distribution networks into theirs. It's more the feed that they get that they're able to present into the user experience and then manage the recommendations and the metadata accordingly. So it runs in parallel to what we're doing for the service operators, but of course, opportunistically for an OTT application, it's the level of service that we can provide. So the consolidation specifically related to Paramount and Warner Brothers is they're very complex ecosystems. So that'll be something to see.
It'll be all kinds of fun. Okay. So,
Yeah.
isn't the phrase you can never have enough bandwidth and you can never have enough engineers?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, now in TiVo's case, they have a platform that they deliver. They have the old quote unquote old TiVo to the set-top box and the recommendations and all that. but they have their own, I don't know if it's an operating system, but they got 11 dozen channels that they are pushing out on a TiVo service. Are you helping with that?
Correct. No, that also runs in parallel to what we have. So it's a similar model for TiVo where that fast channel application that they have almost exists the similar to how an OTT app would be in the user experience for
Yep.
the end customer. So it's content that they take from the content providers that they have the agreements with, and then present it into the experience and mold it in there. But it again runs in parallel to what Velocix is doing from a linear streaming perspective.
Okay. Now you've got IBC coming up, and you wanted to chat a little. We have to be careful how much we say about what's coming up at IBC. So give us a little hint if you can.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Velocix is at a really transformative point, I would say. The foundation of this company is incredible. And again, I've known it and have worked alongside Velocix for the better part of the last 10 years and have seen how it's evolved. I have an immense amount of respect for the customers that we have. And over the course of my first now 3 weeks in the job, I've had a great chance to chat with all of them and the majority of them. And I'm going to be starting my in-person visit soon. But really foundational partnerships that are there, not just on the customer front, but also just industry partners. As I mentioned, we're one part of a big ecosystem in many cases, and understanding the complete nature of that ecosystem is really important to us in developing those partner relationships on top of the customer relationships. But we're now at a point in time where the industry as a whole continues to shift, and it's amazing how just year over year you see the changes. And with the vast footprint and diverse geographic footprint that we have across Europe, the Middle East, and the Americas, they're all kind of in different phases of that journey. So as we think about commonality in terms of innovation and what's going to resonate globally, with full respect that there are going to be things that we look at, region by region, just to make sure that we're aligned with those customers. We're really at a point where our vision is strong for what we have it in place right now in terms of how we're going to evolve our existing products and then enhance the product portfolio. And we're working toward some exciting new views of that at IBC, in particular, our analytics platform. I mean, as the demand for linear streaming is changing, as these service providers continue to migrate their legacy platforms to the new IP-based delivery platforms. And then as they organically grow those platforms, which is still happening in a lot of cases, the ability to operate efficiently, the ability to have control over that ecosystem, and the ability to monitor it is really a very critical path item for our customers. So at IBC, there's an agentic AI version of our analytics platform that we're going to be introducing that helps to bridge the gap across a very complex ecosystem and allow for monitoring and proactive versus reactive, assess what's happening across the video network, integration with all the vendors as a part of that network, and working toward at some point being completely vendor agnostic in terms of how this analytics platform can work. But again, leveraging an agentic AI form of that. And we're excited to showcase that at IBC in September.
Now, you don't sound like you are from London, but you are based in London, right?
The company
All
is
right.
based in London. I'm in
Final
Madison,
question.
Wisconsin.
Final
Yeah.
question. Who were you rooting for in the World Cup, which, by the way, broke 1 billion records and probably stressed out a lot of engineers on the streaming side? Who are you rooting
Yeah,
for?
no doubt. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the USA. I think what they've done for the soccer program here in the US and all the way down to the youth level to drive more interest and try and come up anywhere close to the interest and the fandom that happens on a global scale. They've done a really great job. I thought the US men's national team showed up and exceeded expectations, which was a lot of fun. And then from that point on, it was just enjoying. I didn't really have a horse in the race, and our kids put together a bracket where they were checking to see who all was winning, and we watched nearly every one of the games. It was such a wonderful time. And I will say, and this is another little plug here, but incredibly proud of how we performed at Velocix in terms of the World Cup. The demand for viewing and streaming across all of our customers was heavier than we've seen in some time, and we rose to the occasion. So that was really good to see and to get the readout of that once I came in as things were wrapping up.
Cool, bud. All right. Well, listen, thank you for your time. We'll catch up and looking forward to the IBC announcements. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Rick.